The Staccato XC is one of my favorite guns, possibly my favorite. It's stupid accurate, stupid soft shooting, and stupid expensive. Masterpiece Arms is shooting shots across the bow with their DS9TC for tactical comp, and it's out-XC'd the XC. It's a 5-inch form factor 2011 with a commander length slide with a thread-on steel compensator with a slightly larger port than the XC at a price that's about 15% less, and it comes with 2 MBX mags and an aluminum grip, both of which are superior to what comes on the Staccato. So the 2011 game, while it is a step up in performance somewhat, not a whole lot, just a little bit over, other pistols, the shooter's experience is elevated, and then it becomes a flex game with just how cool the pistol looks and is, and just how nicely made it is and all that good stuff. But the MPA DS9TC doesn't have the name recognition of the Staccato XC, but that doesn't keep it from being in kind of the same ballpark. This is a double stack 1911, really a 2011 pistol that has all tool steel internals. It's got a black nitrided slide and frame. All the small parts are similarly coated, so a super resilient coating. The compensator, you can get black or steel. So the DS9TC is a workhorse of a gun. I'm not going to dive too deep into the specifics of it. I've done another video on my personal Masterpiece Arms pistol. This is the old DS9 IDPA, I don't even know what they call it. Their IDPA model, which means it has a shorter dust cover to save weight and make weight in IDPA. I've since put a flower pot magwell on it to compete in US PSA, but the gun is entirely stock. There is nothing that has changed about it, although this is one of the first guns since the new DS9 program kind of got started up, and I can tell you that they've been revising the guns, because as good as this gun is, and it's a very good gun, the new ones are even better. Like, the slide to frame is tighter, the slide action is even smoother. There is absolutely zero hitch on the disconnector like a super high-end gun. And just to level set, the Staccato XC, like Staccato, gets a bad name in the 2011 community from the flex bros who insist that you have to spend at least 3x that to get a good one. But the Staccato XC is actually really well fit as well. The tightness on this gun is as good as the DS9TC, but the smoothness isn't quite as good. There's a slight hitch on the disconnect. You can kind of see it there. So still an awesome gun, still very, very well fit. We'll get into more of kind of the comparison with this gun later. I'll tell you a little bit about the company of Masterpiece Arms, and then we'll kind of dive in quickly over the specs and get back to the XC. So Masterpiece Arms is known for being a long-range precision rifle company that picked up the manufacturing capability for some 2011 style pistols. With that came David Lyle. He is a US PSA Grandmaster and a machinist as well, and he started revitalizing the DS9 program and has since gone through it a couple different times. Masterpiece Arms is one of the few companies that is sort of like competitor led, meaning that like they actually have a shooting team. They've got Andrew Hyder and Mike Wang, who are both open gun super squad guys. They've got Travis Tomasi and Joey Sauerland, who are both national champions. So when they develop the products, they're putting them in the hands of extremely high level shooters. And generally speaking, I don't disagree with the specs that they're coming out with, because the guns are very well designed. And interestingly, if you look at the gun and you know a little bit about machining, you can realize that like it is engineered to sort of a price point. They're not trying to be the highest end gun with superfluous like machining and stuff like that. They're just trying to make really high quality guns at a good price, and that's what they're doing. Now realize that good price, I'm not even gonna tell you what it is, but it's a lot of money. It's a chunk of change. But relative to what they compete with, like the Atlas Gunworks and things like that, they're nearly half the price. They're just over half the price. Real quickly, this gun is on loan from the people at Masterpiece Arms. No money changed hands or anything like that. I can say whatever I want to say about it, although I really like the pistols, so there's not a lot to say negative about it, but we'll get there at the end. There will be negatives at the end of the video. So the DS9TC represents one of two guns that are new for 2024. This being one of them. This is a basically Staccato XC, or it could be an IDPA competition gun, and guys, I'm telling you, the Staccato XC is the meta for IDPA. And yes, IDPA bros, you can make this gun make weight. If you use like checkmates with plastic mag bottoms, this gun weighs 44.9 ounces, but they also sell a hollowed out steel guide rod, which drops the weight even further. So this would be the IDPA gun, so to speak, and then they have the LOK V2, which is a sight block, basically same format of gun, except for it comes with a sight block instead of a compensator, and it is a, you know, the big old flower pot magwell with the option of the steel grip as well. This has got the aluminum grip. Taking it sort of top to bottom, it has one of the carry magwells that you see here. It would fit in the IDPA box, but what's really cool is Masterpiece Arms, if you try and insert magazines, like you can see that this is straight up, this is tilted. If I try and push that in, the gun is going to automatically kind of correct it, and you can get pretty twisted and it will still correct it. Like the gun is making it rotate and go into it. So generally speaking, with metal gripped guns, they will bind up. Like in fact, my Staccato grip, this is a Phoenix Trinity grip on this gun. If I try and insert past about 10 degrees, like it'll take it to about there, but if I go beyond that, it's just gonna bind in the grip. You can see right there, that's bound, it's not gonna go. Like you have to be much better on your reload with this grip than you do with this one. This one is just going to basically, if it fits, it ships, it's gonna go. So I really like that about the Masterpiece Arms grip. This is the standard texture A2 grip, which is kind of spiky on the front and back and kind of not spiky on the sides. I think most normal people who don't have leathery palms like I do and want guns to absolutely assault their palms like me, this is their A3, and this will, like if you rub your arm against this, it will draw blood. It is a super spiky grip. This won't do that. Like you can, it's not very gratery. The other one is absolutely a cheese grater. With a grip like this, I would probably end up using like a grip enhancer, grip chalk type stuff to get the gun planted a little bit better. Coming up to the top, you can see that they actually don't have the machining marks through the slide. You can see on the other Masterpiece guns, the DS9 hybrids, the cuts go all the way through the slide. You can see the barrel kind of poking through, but they don't do that on this gun. They use an Accuracy X plate system, which is, it keeps the dot kind of high. We'll come back to that at the negatives at the end. The trigger is very, very nice. Right out of the box, very, very good trigger. You would love it. I can't tell you what it is because YouTube is being dumb. Let's talk about how the gun shoots. The traditional Masterpiece gun is a joy to shoot. It is super pleasant in its own right, but having that faster slide action from the lighter slide, the lighter spring weight, which this is an 8-pound recoil spring from the factory with a 17-pound mainspring, and the compensator just keeping it flat, it's a danger really, because you're going to enjoy how the gun shoots so much, you're going to shoot way more than you would generally plan to, and like mag dumping becomes fun because it's absolutely silly to do, and the gun stays really flat and it's really stable. The grip is good, so you're able to return it with the double undercut on the trigger guard. It's just a great grip module. Because it has a compensator, you can shoot whatever ammo you want through it for the most part, and the gun will basically be completely blind to it. I was using my Buffalo Creek 115s, which are super soft shooting and get the slide moving out of non-compensated guns. They worked in this gun beautifully as well. Thanks to Buffalo Creek for providing support for the channel with the ammo. I appreciate it. The beaver tail is pinned, so this doesn't actually, you can see I don't have to depress it to get the gun to go, but it's just an absolutely insane gun. The accuracy of this gun is exactly what you would want it to be due to how tight the gun is. Before moving on to the XC, I'll just say that this is the kind of gun, if you hand to a friend who only uses production type pistols and they get to manipulate it, they feel the trigger, how the slide moves around, how positive all of the controls are, they will then begin to understand the difference between a, you know, sub 1K gun that, you know, they're used to seeing and a higher end semi-custom gun, which I would consider this a semi-custom gun since it has limited options that you can configure. It's a very nice gun. All right, so Mr. Staccato XC, let's kind of take it through them side by side. First and foremost, from a performance perspective, there is not a difference in performance. Both of these guns shoot pretty much identically. There's not a huge difference despite the fact that the port on the Masterpiece gun is a little bit bigger than the port on the XC. The difference being that the XC is a island barrel. You can see kind of the front sight there is on a built up piece. The comp is actually milled out of the same piece as the barrel, whereas the Masterpiece gun is a compensator that is threaded onto the barrel. The Staccato XC is a true DLC finish, so it has kind of like a nice matte sort of color, just a little bit of sheen, whereas the black nitride on the Masterpiece is a little bit more shiny. I prefer the DLC. I think it's a little bit of a better finish than a nitride, but honestly, a nitride is fantastic. The machining on the slide, it's not more functional, but it's a little bit prettier. If you see like kind of the intricate cuts around the serrations and stuff like that, there's more passes, changing tools and stuff like that. whereas the Masterpiece gun, it just is much more basic and plain, which I actually kind of appreciate because it's a very plain looking gun. Kind of harkens back to the 1911 that was just very understated and elegant. The Staccato XC is going to come with a polymer grip module that you see here. It's actually a really good grip module, like it has great traction and all that kind of stuff, but this looks like flames or rust depending on, and I'm a sucker for that kind of look, so that's what mine looks like. Versus the Masterpiece gun has a aluminum grip, which it's a good thing, bad thing. Aluminum is going to dump more energy into your arms. Good news is that because the compensator, there's not a lot of energy coming off the gun into your arms, but the upside to the aluminum is that the texture generally lasts a good bit longer on the grip, whereas this kind of fine fissure stuff, this will kind of cake up with your dead skin off your hands. It's basically like an emery board that you're holding onto as the gun kind of vibrates, so you're going to load it up with dead skin eventually and have to clean it. Whereas a gun like this doesn't kind of hold on to the dead skin as much, so the grips is a little bit nicer. Staccato grip doesn't rotate the magazines for you in the same way that the Masterpiece does, but it is plastic, so you can kind of like, you know, ugga-dugga it in there and it will fit. And finally, the trigger shoe, despite having a very good trigger, like the sear, disconnector, and hammer is cut about the same as it is on the Masterpiece arm, so very high quality trigger. It's just the trigger shoe is still polymer, which isn't awesome. Whereas the Masterpiece actually has a machined trigger with a machined trigger bow, meaning that they actually take a piece of metal and they machine it so that there's less deflection. So when you load up on the wall, it's just much more precise. It's perceptible. You can kind of feel it, just a little bit more of a squish. It's not exploitable necessarily, but when you hear people talking about red dirt triggers, that's what they're doing, is they're getting a machined trigger bow with a machined trigger, and this has it out of the box basically. So let's talk about the negatives on the pistol, and then I'll tell you which one I like better between the XC and the MPA. But the negatives on the pistol, in my opinion, are, number one is build time. Build time on these for the aluminum gripped one is like 16 to 18 weeks. On the steel gripped, if you go for that option, is going to end up being like 24 to 26 weeks. So, but that's not really a problem with the gun. The Accuracy X system is what they have been using since they've been putting optics on pistols, and it was one of the better solutions at the time that people started putting dots on 1911, 2011 pistols. I would say that the game has kind of evolved, and I don't love the Accuracy X plates because it sits the optic pretty high on the slide. Like, that is almost no sinking the optic down in there. So the optics do sit a little bit higher with the Accuracy X thing. I understand the kind of flexibility it provides where you've got, you know, 3 different optic footprints based on plates. You can get ones that have rear sights like this one does over here, and that's all cool, but the plates are still like 150 bucks if you want to make a change, which isn't awesome, which is the same price as the Staccato plates, because the Staccato XC, it comes with a rear sight that only fits the Delta Point Pro. Well, that one's getting a little loose, better tighten that down. But the Delta Point Pro will thread directly onto the gun, which sinks it down, you know, a pretty good bit. But if you want to use a different footprint, then you use a plate, which kind of elevates the optic, being in the same ballpark as the Masterpiece arms. So some sort of optic solution that sinks the optics down a little bit more would be welcome. It's just a nicer shooting experience to take a sight and really sink it down. Another thing, and this is a very minor nitpick, the Staccato XC comes with a Dawson Precision toolless guide rod, which is cool, but it's a very polarizing kind of item. While it makes maintenance of the gun easier, you don't have to use a tool to take it apart. You do have to use a tool to take apart the TC, but that little pin that keeps that little pivot thing in won't walk on you and bind up your recoil spring and make the gun go down. So it's a reliability play, and I understand why it's done this way, but it's really nice when you have a guide rod that you don't have to use a tool to take apart. There really isn't a ton for me to say negative about the pistol because, you know, the guys who are working on designing these things think about guns the same way I do, and they come to a lot of the same conclusions on kind of a performance-driven sort of item, and I think they hit the spec really, really well, and they're hitting a very high quality standard at a price point that isn't reflective of how high the quality is. So it's still a good value gun, even though it costs a lot of money, if that makes sense. All right, so picking a winner between these two guns, I would say, like, my opinion is I kind of prefer the Masterpiece gun. If I were to build one, I would get the A3 aggressive grip, and then I would probably just change like the trigger color and all the mag ball color and stuff like that. Probably both silver and silver here to make it kind of pop with the silver compensator, because I like that feature. But I would probably pick this gun because the performance is the same as the Staccato, better in many regards, and it's 15% less expensive, but you pay for that with build time. So having money burning a hole in your pocket and wanting a gun right now, the Staccato XC wins for instant gratification, which it does beautifully because, you know, you can get one if you want one. I'm still a big fan of my Staccato XC, although if I were serious about competing in like IDPA or whatever, I'd probably give the nod to a MPA or at least an XC with the MPA grip module, which you used to be able to buy, can't buy so much now. That no mag binding grip really is a game changer for, you know, competitive shooting. So if you want more information on the Staccato XC, I've done a review on it and you can watch that here.